Hello everyone, welcome back to another informative episode of Just Talk. In this episode, I'm going to teach you how to make your own potting mix. Now, what is a potting mix? A potting mix is simply what you put in your planting containers or your gardening containers to grow your fruits and vegetables. Now, one may ask, why do I need to make my own potting mix or learn to make my own potting mix when I can go to the farm store and buy a bag of potting mix and plant my plants? Now, yes, you can do this, but you will soon realize that you will have to do a lot of soil amendment in order to provide the necessary soil resource that your plant needs to sustain growth and development. Now, let us face it, a plant that is in its generative stage producing fruits and flowers will pull on a lot more soil resource than a plant that is basically in vegetative stage. Likewise, a larger plant will pull on a lot more soil resource than a smaller plant. So these are some of the reasons why it is good to learn and understand how to make your own potting mix so that you can provide a balance and provide a potting mix that will sustain growth and development for a long period of time and provide the necessary soil resource that the plant needs. Also, persons who live at apartments like Higham, we have challenges in having an area to plow into the ground to make our own garden, right? Because the space is just not there. The space is taken up by maybe car parking and so on. So you find that we have to plant in containers. Also, you find that some people have the land space, but the land is very rocky, so they can't plow into the ground, right? So they have to plant in containers. And just generally, we might just not have the space to grow, to make our garden. So we have to kind of use containers, right? Those are some of the important reasons, right? Why you need to learn how to make potting mix. What are the characteristics of a good potting mix? I normally like to discuss this and put them under 3 main headings. Number 1, your potting mix need to have good water holding capacity, meaning that you don't want to have a potting mix that will be waterlogged on you. No, you don't want it to be waterlogged, but you want it to have good water holding capacity. Number 2, it needs to have good CEC. CEC means cation exchange capacity. And that in a nutshell is basically how well your potting mix hold on to nutrients. Obviously, you need your potting mix to hold on to nutrients so that your plant can take it up, can uptake it through its roots, right? So that is number 2. Number 3, it has to have good drainage, and drainage takes into consideration good porosity, and also it takes in consideration air movement and basically the air capacity of the soil mix or of the potting mix, right? You want your potting mix to be able to hold here so that the plants can get the necessary oxygen and carbon dioxide that it needs. Now, what is a good mix? Obviously, I'm telling you to mix different materials together. What is a good mix? We normally refer to this as ratio. So there are many different ratios out there, and there are a lot of videos, especially on YouTube, with persons having their own garden and making their own mix. You'll find that everybody have their own mix, but at the end of the day, you find that they are speaking a universal language, which is the 3 characteristics I just talked to you about. Good water holding capacity, good drainage, and good CEC, which is cation exchange capacity. They all talk about these 3 things, but they talk about them in different ways. You understand? And so what the mix I use is basically a ratio of 2 to 1 to 1. So the 2 is basically 2 parts of topsoil or garden soil. The 1 is basically 1 part of compost. So I normally use chicken manure, right? So that is, I use 1 part of chicken manure. However, if I was using cow manure or goat manure or kitchen scraps compost, right, I would basically use 2 parts. The reason why I'm using 1 part of chicken manure is because chicken manure is much more has much more nitrogen than the other composted manures, right? So I basically kind of tone down on the amount I put in my growing mix or my potting mix. So that is why I use a 1 part. So that is where the 2 to 1 to 1 comes in, right? But if I was using, as I said, if I was using other composted manure, I would use 2 parts instead of 1. So where are we? So I spoke about the 2 parts of garden soil or topsoil, whichever one you can find. I talk about the 1 part of chicken manure, right? And as I said, if you are using other manure, it's 2 part, but I'm using chicken manure, so it's 1 part. And then now the other 1 part is basically 1 part of coconut coir or perlite, right? And also that 1 part would involve some worm casting as well, if you have it. I have it, so I use worm casting. Now, that is basically the different parts, which is in a ratio of 2 to 1 to 1. Why do I combine these different materials, right? So first of all, so majority of your potting mix is going to be your garden soil or topsoil and the compost, whichever compost you can find. So that is basically forming the base, just like how outside in the native soil, when you look in the soil profile, right, you find that you have bedrock and parent material at the bottom, and that is basically the base from which the soil builds from, right? So in our potting mix, our base is basically the topsoil or the garden soil and the compost. So let us, as I said, let us talk about what these different materials do to the potting mix that makes the potting mix great. Obviously, the compost helps to add organic matter, right? And when you add organic matter, you are improving the CEC, that is the cation exchange capacity. That is how well your growing medium is holding on to nutrients. So when you add organic compost, it improves organic matter, it improves CEC, and it improves water holding capacity of your growing medium. So that is good. Now, obviously, the worm casting also improves organic matter content, and it also improves nutrient content as well, right? And the worm casting also helps to improve water holding capacity, right? And the coir, the coconut coir, also what that does is it helps with the whole drainage, and it helps with the air capacity of the potting mix. So you remember I told you about drainage? That is where the coconut coir comes in, right? It helps with drainage, and it helps with porosity, and it helps with air capacity, so that the carbon dioxide and the oxygen can be within the root zone. So that is basically the main purpose, right? And also the perlite does something similar. That is why I say you should use the coconut coir or the perlite. The perlite helps with drainage, it helps with porosity, it helps with air capacity, right? So in a nutshell, that is what the different materials do.
Hi there, my name is Marius at Sunshine Nursery. My friend Mario came and asked me today what is a good way to put a soil mix together if you're planting vegetables in your garden. The best thing to think of, you're going to have to create a mix, and what is the best mix is starting with a base, and the base would be 60 to 70% either a topsoil and compost mix. So you mix topsoil and compost together to create your base. You can also achieve the same thing by mixing in peat moss as well. So then you come up with the majority of what your soil is going to be, and that's going to be your base. And then you have another 30% that is going to be soil amendments and things that you're going to add to that base to provide soil structure and also nutrients for your vegetables. So that's where you would add in things like compost, and the 2 biggest forms of compost for vegetable gardens are either cow manure or chicken manure. If you're using chicken manure, this is definitely the most nutrient rich option that you can add to your soil, but just be aware that chicken manure can burn, so I would not add more than 20% of your mix. I would not let more than 20% be chicken manure compost. But black cow, chicken manure compost, all those things, if you have at home, if you have access to different types of manure, or vegetable compost and scraps and stuff like that you could put in there, that would help as well. In terms of structure, what I would definitely recommend adding, especially if it's in a potting mix, is perlite. Perlite or aerosoil, which I can show you right now, is what you will find in almost every potting mix. It is these little white spots right here. This is called perlite, and what this does is it allows the soil to be aerated, and so it provides structure to the soil so that roots can come through, roots can break through, and so that roots can get oxygen, and so that the plants can actually breathe in the soil, because yes, plants do breathe. Along with perlite, I would highly recommend adding in pine mulch or some sort of mulch into your soil, because mulch also provides structure to the soil, helps the roots be able to spread through the soil, but at the same time it slowly decomposes and provides nutrients to your soil and to your plants over a long term. The next thing I'll say about soil. Soil isn't something that, soil is a living thing, and so it's something that needs to be improved upon over and over again. It's not a one and done thing. So you create your soil mix, but I highly recommend adding to it throughout your growing season with either compost, or even if you have a natural compost at home that you can use eggshells, coffee grinds, food scraps, or things that you compost back in your garden back home. That would be very helpful. Thank you very much.
Right? Obviously, at our different areas, we have access to different materials, so we have to use what we have. So if it is that you can tell me also what you have at your disposal, then I could tell you how to mix it. Right? Right? You could do that. Right? But I am telling you what I have and how I am going to mix it. So if you have the same thing, you can mix it the same way. So listen, this video is very informative, and I need you to pay attention to it. And if you need to ask questions, please ask them, because I am telling you, I have something coming up that, listen, you need to watch these videos and you need to learn, because I have something coming on stream that you will need this information for. I'm not going to give away too much. I'm basically putting pen to paper now, and as soon as I'm finished drafting and putting everything together, I'm going to come and I'm going to tell you about it, and I know you'll be excited about it, and I love the vibes already. So please pay attention to these videos and understand. If you don't understand, ask questions, right? Thank you again for tuning in. Please remember to subscribe to the channel, like the videos, please, so that we can get our videos out there, right? And I'll see you again in another video.